immigrant protests, please bring an American flag. So I would never burn an American flag. I think it's the dumbest thing in the world. It bothers.
Having an immigrant protest that's an oxymoron. Because American rights, American protest rights are for Americans, not for foreigners to come here and pretend like they get adopted into the statehood of America. That's not how it works. It's retarded. Trump called out by Piers Morgan in heated debate. Oh, geez.
During his latest heated debate panel, Piers Morgan finally called out his buddy Donald Trump over Trump's egregiously censorious instincts and his unconstitutional executive order, which
egregiously censorial,
which attempts to criminalize the burning of the American flag. Check it out.
And especially America.
Okay, let's go to our second.
He's right about that. It is atrocious that there's even a proposed legislation that if you burn the Israeli flag, you can go to jail. Has nothing to do with American symbolism. Has nothing to do with our flag. We have the Stars and Stripes, which men have died and bled for hundreds of years. Immigrants don't get to come here, many times illegally, and burn it on the cameras as part of a demoralizing system for the public. To hell with that. We don't have to allow that at all.
You don't have to allow it, but Andrew, I would say this.
Shouldn't.
But Andrew, I would say this. You know, a lot of my family served in the UK armed forces in warfare, including in World War II, and they fought for the freedom of people to actually exercise their right to free speech and expression, even if it's very offensive to other people. I mean, isn't that the point?
I think anybody coming in defense of publicly burning, burning the American flag serves no purpose. It is emblematic of being an enemy of the country. If you go out in the middle of the street during a protest and you light the American flag on fire, the only message that is sending is I hate this country. And I could care less about how it was founded, about how many people have sacrificed for it. So any clown retard that is coming in defense of not criminalizing people burning the American flag, I think they're a retard. I don't feel like I'm having my First Amendment's rights taken away from me by the federal government telling me I'm gonna go to jail for a year if I go out in broad daylight and burn the American flag. Because if I go burn the American flag, you know what that means? That means I'm an enemy of the country. That's what that means. Take the freedom of speech route, but you're right. People are gonna say the U.S. is fascist nation for this, though. I don't care. There's so many other countries that jail you for burning the flag. I'm pretty sure even Mexico, if you go to Mexico and light a Mexican flag on fire, you go to jail. Is Mexico fascist too? It's only okay to beat up on America. It's only okay to shit talk us. It's okay to abuse us. And we have not only do we have the best military, we have the best military weaponry, we have the best bombs, the best rockets, the best planes, we have the most capable soldiers anywhere in the world. And as much as I can't stand so many aspects about this country, I don't want to live in another one. This is still my country, and selfless men have fought and died so that I get to sit on my ass on a Tuesday evening and live stream to try and accomplish my dreams. It's not taking away freedom of speech to say if you declare yourself as an enemy of the country, you go to jail for a year. Why should we tolerate that, period? What have you in jail for Instagram? UK is cooked. They think freedom means everything goes. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. No. Freedom of speech is not freedom of action. Burning the flag is an action. Saying something is completely different.
Of fighting for freedom. You are allowed to then express yourself in ways that other people find offensive.
No offense, Piers, but I don't think a single one of your family members fought for the right of people to burn your nation's flag that they were fighting for.
Actually, I think they did.
For a second.
I would say they did.
Any more than I believe that my countrymen and my family members were fighting in wars so that we could have more gay butt sex and more freedom to go and make sure that we can have gay pride parades. I don't believe it for a second. I don't believe they were fighting for trans rights. I don't believe it.
No, you're missing the point.
They stormed Germany for trans rights.
They were fighting. They were fighting.
Nonsense.
Yeah, but Andrew, they were fighting for the freedom, for people to have the freedom to live their lives as they want to lead them. I mean, isn't that the whole point of the world?
Yeah. Living your life the way you want to live it does not mean go burn the. If you want to burn the flag of the country you're living in, Why are you living there in the first place? It's aggressive, it's disrespectful, it's uncouth, it's ugly, it's nasty, it is threatening in nature. It should be a crime. Just off of what it represents alone, it should be a crime.
But the thing is, it's like you have
defeated
to
the
also
Nazis.
have,
The Nazis wanted us all to behave a certain way.
but you
we
also
decided
have to
as a
have
world we're not going to
freedom.
accept it.
So that is Piers Morgan arguing with right-wing debater Andrew Wilson, who I actually had a fairly cordial debate with on Tim Pool back in January, along with Luke Beasley and Myron Gaines from Fresh and Fit. They're both pretty far right, and Andrew Wilson in particular.
You don't like this guy? I don't even know who this guy is.
Is known for what they
What's
call
wrong with
blood
him?
sports debate, so where he goes pretty hard in the paint. But we actually had a fairly civil
He got cooked on
conversation.
Tim
I
Pool.
disagree with his views, but here he is defending the idea
If he's a liberal, he probably did.
that American flag burning should be criminally prosecutable, even though that hasn't been the case for almost 40 years, and it's become a staple of American law. His idea that, well, it's only been the case for about 40.
Okay, so as a white liberal man, how does it benefit you or your cause if people can burn the American flag and self-proclaim themselves as enemy of the state? How is that ancillary to making America a better place? It's just simply not.
Years, ergo it's not a valid interpretation of the Constitution. It's kind of absurd because you could make the same case really about Second Amendment. For example, I mean, for most of American history, the Second Amendment was not interpreted by the Supreme Court as an individual's right to own most guns. It was only in the Heller Supreme Court decision back in, I believe,
My lights are bright as hell.
2008. I'm pretty confident it's 2008, where the right-wing Supreme Court under Justice Antonin Scalia interpreted that as a constitutional right for individual citizens to own firearms. So if the logic is it's relatively new, ergo it doesn't count, the Heller decision is even newer, and so you don't have a constitutional right as an individual to own firearms. But good on Piers Morgan for pushing back, and he does it a couple of other times throughout this panel. Now, we're actually going to go in chronological order now. This is
Why does any American citizen not want it to? That doesn't make any sense to me. Freedom, all right, freedom of speech, burning the flag it's an action that is putting yourself in a oppositional position towards the nation. That's the only functional purpose that it serves. I hate America. I'm going to go declare to you how much I hate America by burning the flag. They don't think hate speech should be protected. Burning the American flag is hate speech. So you know what's crazy? I bet this guy, because if what you're saying about this guy is true, which I believe that it is. If I said the F word towards homosexuals, if I said British cigarette, I bet if this guy's a liberal, if he's pro gay trans rights, I bet he'd probably want my speech not protected. Oh, freedom of speech isn't freedom of consequence. I bet that would then be his response.
when Piers first
Which is pathetic.
brings it up.
Then basically everybody in the UK would be arrested.
Okay, but let me throw it back at you quickly on that point, because very critical of the UK, as indeed most people in the UK are, frankly. But you've also got at the same time President Trump wanting to jail people who burn the American flag. What do you feel about that? Presumably you would be as incensed about that infringement of people's rights.
Yeah, I think that I certainly have an issue with that. I feel that is an infringement on free speech rights. I think that there are some complications about, I guess, the scale of the damage. When I think about,
If you own the flag, if you own the American flag and you want to burn it, why should the state get in your way? Why should you face a year in prison?
I don't think they should. And let me be clear about that. I don't agree with Trump's policy on that. I'm simply looking at the scale of damage here in terms of that's.
So again, they're comparing it. Most of the debate topic is about what's going on in the United Kingdom, which we don't cover. The United Kingdom doesn't have a First Amendment, so they have more, I would say, aggressive laws against speech and hate speech and the rights to expression. Not to say that it's a censorious country, but you certainly have more liberty in the United States with respect to free speech and the free expression. Okay. And yet, this is where Piers Morgan makes the case to Trump's recent executive order, which we discussed in a previous video. Now, they are doing everything in their power to avoid contradicting the Supreme Court so that it doesn't get overturned by the Supreme Court if and when there are challenges. Although, again, free speech organizations like FIRE and others have called out Trump's executive order, saying that Trump shouldn't be seeking to prosecute anybody for burning the American flag. Now, to the extent that it contributes to incitement, well, then you can charge incitement. You don't need to charge burning the American flag, which again,
I disagree. Someone burning the American flag is offensive to me. It offends me. I have family members that have served in the armed forces. That's offensive to me. I like my country. I don't hate America. I hate the government. I don't hate my nation. I don't hate my military. I don't hate the people that live here. I don't hate the people that are from here. Let's just say that. So burning the flag offends me. And I think it should offend every American with a brain.
is a constitutionally protected right of, dissent.
And I'm glad this is happening, though, because this is another point on the graph for why Democrats won't come into power again. Because it's these stupid, weird hills that they choose to die on. It's the 1% issues. It's the trans stuff. It's the illegals. It's not wanting to prosecute people. It's coming in defense of people burning the flag. All this anti-America stuff, all this pro-America hatred stuff. This is what these retarded cucks choose to fixate on. And the longer that they choose to fixate on this, the less power that they're going to have. And that makes me so happy. So yes, what's this guy's name? Pondering Politics. Whoever this guy is. Thank you. Please continue what you're doing. Please continue coming in defense of 1% issues. Please continue to support American flag burning. Please continue to defend trans people that do mass shootings. Just keep doing it. Keep doing it. So that you go ahead and get your little YouTube check. You'll 31,000 views in 2 hours. Keep doing this. So I never have to listen to you retards ever again. That you guys never get to tell people what to do ever again.
Right? Now, obviously, if you burn somebody else's flag, that's different, and that is still criminal because, of course, you're vandalizing and burning somebody else's property. That is not protected by law. That is not constitutionally valid expression of free speech. But good on Piers Morgan for pushing back, because this is something that Trump is...
Piers Morgan is from the UK that's allowing itself to be taken over by Muslims and putting people in jail for flying their own country's flag. Who gives a shit about what Piers Morgan has to say about anything?
Talked about for years because he knows...
He said a couple base things, but largely he's like 75% retard.
Red meat for his conservative base. They want to punish flag burning as well as other exercises of free speech. I mean, the right is not principally supportive of free speech as an institution. I mean, my God, Trump has repeatedly threatened to go after law.
The right is not in support of free speech. You guys boot people off social media for saying gay and retarded. All you guys do is tell people what they have to do. That's your whole bag. Telling people they have to get a vaccine. Telling people they have to wear a mask. Telling people what words they can say. Whom they can't offend. Are you out of your mind? The hell are you talking about, gang?
Well, yes, law firms, but also news agencies and other things as well for simply criticizing him. He is
it's either rage bait or he's a retard.
FCC, the Federal Communications Commission, on networks that he has criticized, like ABC and CBS and things of that nature. So Trump is just the most egregiously censorious president in modern American history at a minimum, and that's according to FIRE. Again,
the most egregiously censorious president. Is this nigga serious? Is he trolling, bro? Trump egregiously censors people? Who the hell has he censored? Because he made the White House come out and say, "Stop making fun of me" to South Park? That's not censoring anything.
Libertarian free speech organization, which has not only ruthlessly criticized what they call progressive universities. So they've repeatedly criticized Harvard, for example, for their woke policies that they believe are censorious. They've repeatedly criticized the Biden administration as well. But the Trump administration, they've said months ago that Trump's war on free speech is unprecedented in scope, scale, and severity, and he's done a lot of things since they made that pronouncement. Here's another clip, and this I think it's either Andrew speaking up for the first time or Cenk Uygur. I think it might be Andrew.
Is to the majority, to the democratic voices within this country, and that is what is happening.
Okay, Andrew Wilson, on the issue of burning the American flag, where do you sit with that? Because I hear a lot of Americans taking a very high moral ground about censoring free speech and expression in the UK. But it seems to me that is a pretty direct attack on someone's right to do that if they wish to do that. Where do you sit with it?
Yeah, so a couple things. First, I think it's fine to throw people who burn the American flag in jail. I have no problem with it at all.
Me
If you're in the
neither.
United States, you
Keep
burn
doing
our
it.
symbols. And by the way, this has only been since 1989 that
So this is the clip. I'm sorry. This is the clip in which he references the age of the Supreme Court decision, Texas v. Johnson, which ruled that burning the American flag is a constitutionally protected form of free expression. And again, the relative recency of that decision and the fact that before that, previous states had laws against burning the American flag, that's not really an argument that it's not a valid form of constitutional protection. Constitutional interpretation changes with time. I'm sure Andrew would agree with the Dobbs decision, which overturned Roe v. Wade. That had 50 years worth of, I mean, it was almost super precedent at that point because there was like Planned Parenthood versus Casey, which reaffirmed Roe v. Wade, and yet the Dobbs decision just overturned it. I mean, constitutional interpretation changes with time, and we've seen landmark Supreme Court cases be overturned by subsequent landmark Supreme Court cases. So again, if the idea is, well, this is not constitutionally protected because it was just established as a right damn near 40 years ago, then again, the Heller decision, which was 2008, that was the first Supreme Court case which reaffirmed an individual citizen's right to own firearms by the Second Amendment. Prior to that, that was not the widespread interpretation of the Second Amendment as an individual right to own firearms. So if we're going to invalidate Texas v. Johnson because it was 1989, then a liberal court or liberal activists or progressive activists should be able to invalidate the Heller decision because that was only 2008.
this has been a law only since
I get what you mean. This guy's super gay, and I don't like him at all. Yeah, this is the first and last video I ever watched of this clown. Wait, no, actually, no. I take that back. I have seen him before. To give him his credit, he did drop a really, really interesting video criticizing members of Trump's cabinet for denouncing the Epstein files. He, low-key, he cooked. He cooked. I made a YouTube video about it like a month ago. Maybe like a month and a half ago. Yeah, now that I'm remembering. So that he had good talking points then, but with this, he's a retard.
1989, almost every state had laws against this. Why? Because he considered it incitement. Trump's executive order says the exact same thing. He considers it incitement under certain contexts. That's how they're going to avoid the Supreme Court.
Burning the American flag is trying to rally people to come in adversary of the country. That's all it is.
It's a good law. I support it 100%. We absolutely should be able to throw these people in jail. In some ways, also kind of circling back just very quickly, when you say, oh, the UK prosecutes people for speech, that's true, they do. In some ways, that might even be superior to the system we have in the United States, though, where if you're far right, you're debanked and depersoned with no due process at all,
we
no
do that here
publicity
too.
behind it, without ever even knowing why that was the case. I mean, at least there you're getting some kind of due process. Here, you don't even get that. And so the thing is like this is everywhere. It's not just there. The idea that we have to allow our enemies to pick our battles for us, we have to let Sankey Gur say either it's the case that you allow your enemies to burn the flag while they tear down all of your monuments. They tore down the Confederate flags. They don't care. They don't care about free speech. I'm not letting them pick our battles for us. Sorry.
Right. Hold on. That's true. That's a great point. Because the liberals, they try to say that you can't have a statue of the Confederate of Robert E. Lee. They took down historical monuments, and then not that I'm a supporter of the Confederate flag. I think if you own or if you fly a Confederate flag, I think anybody that has a Confederate flag, I don't want to be around that person, because that essentially means that people think that I should be a slave. That's what you're saying to me. However, do I think that anybody should have the right to own or fly a Confederate flag despite my personal feelings against it? Yes. That's not my business. When I move out, I'm flying a one-piece flag or a straw hat flag in front of my house. Their argument is off of heritage. What do you mean? But as far as how are you so staunchly against the Confederate flag, and you think that should be torn down from government buildings, which that's perfectly fine. You can have that argument. I personally don't like it, but anyone's reasons for wanting it or flying it is irrelevant to me. I could care less. I just don't like it. I wouldn't want to be friends with somebody that would want to fly a Confederate flag, but that's just me personally. But to act like the Confederate flag is offensive and should be done away with, and then to also in the same breath say we shouldn't criminalize burning the American flag, which is representative and emblematic of all Americans, That's crazy. That's crazy, and that's why nobody's
again,
taking
it's
these clowns
interesting.
serious.
So Andrew takes the position that the American flag should be protected because people, soldiers died to protect the American flag, but he seems to take outrage with the idea that the Confederate flag would be tore down. But the Confederate flag was a flag and symbol of secessionist traitors that tried to destroy the United States as we know it. So functionally, I don't see the difference between the Confederate flag and a Nazi flag, right? Other than, the Confederate flag
I don't see a difference between a Confederate flag and a Nazi flag. I'll tell you one thing right now. I would stand shoulder to shoulder to somebody that's a Confederate lover way before I stand shoulder to shoulder with somebody that is a Nazi supporter. What a disingenuous, deliberate misrepresentation. This is embarrassing. This is actually so embarrassing. How do people take this nigga serious? 631,000 subscribers. Cannot stand Andrew, probably the most insufferable panelist of this era of obnoxiousness. We've lost a plot when we prioritize symbols of freedom over actual freedom. I hate Democrats.
was waived.
Also, newsflash, dumbass. The party that you're a part of was the ones that were fighting in the Confederacy. The Democrats are the Confederates, by the way, dumb nigga. They're the party of the Ku Klux Klan. They're the party of supremacy. They're the party of slavery. They're the party of the 3/5 compromise.
When the Confederacy attempted to secede, right? But that's different. You have a German flag versus a secessionist rebel American flag. So I don't know how you square that circle where you're so adamant about protecting the American flag, but also simultaneously the Confederate flag as well. I'm still not sure what he's talking about with respect to tearing the Confederate flag down, because you still have a personal right to own and brandish the Confederate flag. It's just the idea that we probably shouldn't have monuments and flags to traitors in public spaces like, in courthouses and things of that nature, given again that the Confederate flag was the flag of a secessionist, traitor, slaving, rogues gallery of states trying to secede from the Union and destroy the United States. So I'm not particularly persuaded by that specific argument. I do want to play one last clip, and this is of Cenk Uyghur's response. And you should definitely check out this full episode of Piers Morgan Uncensored because it's pretty good. This is Cenk Uyghur of the Young Turks.
Yeah, so I
This
believe
guy
in
is
and I love
this guy. You want to talk about insufferable and obnoxious? Holy.
freedom of speech, and I'm
Yikes.
principled on it as Mike is here, and obviously Andrew isn't. Look, I also love the American flag. I think you should bring the flag to all protests because protesting is one of our fundamental rights in America. That's part of why we love America, especially if you're going to an immigrant protest. Please bring an American flag. So I would never burn an American flag. I think it's the dumbest thing in the world. It bothers.
Having an immigrant protest that's an oxymoron. Because American rights, American protest rights are for Americans, not for foreigners to come here and pretend like they get adopted into the statehood of America. That's not how it works. It's retarded.
Bothers me viscerally. But are you allowed to burn one? Yes, of course you are, because that's part of what's great about this country. You have freedom of speech.
Right. So again, it's this idea of, your personal distaste for burning the American flag notwithstanding. It is a perfectly valid exercise of.
So this clown is calling Trump egregiously censorious. Egregious censorship to criminalize flag burning when flag burning is done solely at protests to incite violence and to create enemies of the state. All it's doing is fostering hatred for America.
Free speech, and Donald Trump has repeatedly targeted it. He's attempting to target it now, with his new executive order, which may or may not be unconstitutional. We'll see what happens when they attempt to enforce it and whether or not there's any sort of legal challenges, which I imagine there are. But there you have it. Piers Morgan finally speaking up against his buddy Donald Trump for his egregious censorious instincts, and it's about damn time. In the meantime, let me know what you think in the comments.
That is an embarrassing hill to die on, brother.